صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تكسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والهب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجن من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. صلوات. دعاء امام الزمانہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم قل ولیک الحجۃ ابن الحسن صلواتک علیہ وعلی آبائہ فی هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنوا أرضك طوعا وتمتعوا فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.
Jazakallah, can we have one loud salawat for him? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Next, I would like to invite Mahat to the stage for Hadith Qissa. Allahumma salli ala
Ibrahim Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. صلوات. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي. قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء. صلوات. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وسمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أمه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. صلوات. محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه، يا رسول الله، يتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومع بيده الجمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وعامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا وزيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي، ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي، أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ وعليك السلام. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا محبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفر لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا محبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله حماه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غماه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Can I now request Brother Ayan Nakfi to come forward for the salam. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
بآواز بلند صلوات. برسرے کربلا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں برسرے کربلا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں خوف و دہشت کے سائے ہیں چھائے ہوئے بے کفن خون کی چادر میں لپٹے ہوئے سارے مقتل میں لاشیں ہیں بکھرے ہوئے آسماں کے ستارے ہیں ٹوٹے ہوئے آسماں کے ستارے ہیں ٹوٹے ہوئے ہائے یہ کیا ہوا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں برسرے کربلا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا ستم تیر بھی مارا سر بھی کیا ہے قلم بے زباں میں یہ طاقت یہ ہمت یہ دم جس کے ہنسنے پہ روتے تھے اہل ظلم جس کے ہنسنے پہ روتے تھے اہل ظلم دیکھنے یہ ادا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں برسر کربلا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں چاک سینے پہ برچی کلیجے میں تھی قتل اکبر کا نوحہ سناتی ہوئی کہہ رہی تھی فضا یا نبی خوشبو مصطفیٰ اس جسد سے اٹھی خوشبو مصطفیٰ اس جسد سے اٹھی کرنے آہو بکا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں برسر کربلا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں برسر کربلا فاطمہ گئیں غم اٹھانے نیا فاطمہ گئیں صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Can I now invite Brother Ali Reza for another salam, please? One more loud salawat for Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
آواز بلند صلوات. پھر سے صلوات.
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
غربت میں قتل ہو گیا مظلوم بے وطن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن تیروں پہ تھا رکھا ہوا لاشا حسین کا ڈوبا ہوا لہو میں تھا کرتا حسین کا آواز تھی حسین کی بہنا کفن کفن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن ایک دل پہ داغ میں نے 72 اٹھا لیے، کچھ داغ میں نے قلب کے اندر چھپا لیے، چھپتے نہیں چھپانے سے شاہ بہن بہن شاہ بہن بہن، قاسم کی لاش لائے تھے دامن میں شاہدی، سہرے سے بے نیاز تھی نوشاہ کی جبیں، ایک شب بھی رہ نہ پائی نہ جس کی دلہن دلہن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، برچھی کلے جائے علی اکبر میں جب لگی، بابا کو دی صدا کبھی آواز مجھ کو دی، کہتا تھا سینہ تھا کہ اماں چبھن چبھن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، تیروں پہ تھا رکھا ہوا لاشا حسین کا، ڈوبا ہوا لہو میں تھا کرتا حسین کا، آواز تھی حسین کی بہنا کفن کفن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، ایک دل پہ داغ میں نے 72 اٹھا لیے، کچھ داغ میں نے قلب کے اندر چھپا لیے، ہاں چھپتے نہیں چھپانے سے داغ رسن رسن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، غربت میں قتل ہو گیا مظلوم بے وطن، میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن، صلوات علی محمد و علی محمد۔
محمد وآل محمد صلوات صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ I request Brother Rafat to come forth and just recite a few verses of salam. Muhammad wa'ali Muhammad salawat.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہ صلی علی محمد وآل محمد، بار دیگر صلوات امام جتنے ہیں سب نور کا ہے خمیر، امام جتنے ہیں سب نور کا ہے خمیر، ہے ان میں سارے محمد کبیر ہوں کہ صغیر، خیال ہے کہ خیال ہے کہ نظر بندی مصور نے پلٹ پلٹ کے دکھائی ہوئے کی تصویر، امام جتنے ہیں محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل لاش اکبر کی جو مقتل سے اٹھا لائے حسین، نوجوان کو صف اول سے اٹھا لائے حسین، چاند کو شام کے بادل سے اٹھا لائے حسین، جاں بلب شیر کو جنگل سے اٹھا لائے حسین، جاں بلب شیر کو جنگل سے اٹھا لائے حسین، دی صدا لاشے پسر آنکھ لے جا بانو، چھد گیا برچی سے اکبر کا کلیجہ بانو، چھد گیا برچی سے اکبر کا کلیجہ بانو، دیکھ لے آخری دیدار پسر مرتا ہے، سامنے آنکھوں کے یہ نور نظر مرتا ہے، منہ سے باہر ہے زباں تشنہ جگر مرتا ہے، اب کوئی دام میں تیرا رشک کمر مرتا ہے، اب کوئی دم میں تیرا رشک کمر مرتا ہے، دام ہے سینے میں رکا زخموں سے خون جاری ہے، ہائے بانو تیرا گھر لٹنے کی تیاری ہے، ہائے بانو تیرا گھر لٹنے کی
تیاری ہے. پہنچی خیمے میں جو حضرت کی یہ پردرد صدا, مضطرب ہو گئے ناموس رسول دوزارا. کہا چلا کے سکینہ نے کہ ہے بھیا, فضہ دوڑی سوئے در پھینک کے سر پر سے ریدا. فضہ دوڑی سوئے در پھینک کے سر پر سے ریدا. پیٹتی زینب مزدر نکل آئی باہر, بانو گھبرا کے کھلے سر نکل آئی باہر. بانو گھبرا کے کھلے سر نکل آئی باہر. شاہ کے کاندھوں پہ دیکھا علی اکبر کو نے ڈال, ہاتھ پھیلا کے یہ چلائی کہ ہے میرے لال. کیا غضب ہو گیا اے بادشاہ نیک خصال, راس آیا نا میرے بچے کو 18واں سال. راس آیا نا میرے بچے کو 18واں سال. ٹکڑے تیغوں سے بدن ہو گیا سارا, ہائے ہائے کون تھا جس نے میرے شیر کو مارا, ہائے ہائے کون تھا جس نے میرے شیر کو مارا, ہائے ہائے. رو کے بانوں سے یہ فرمانے لگے سروردی, سر نہ پیٹو ابھی زندہ ہے میرا ماہ جبھی. سانس آتی ہے یہ ہر دم ہے دم باز پسی, کوچنے کا بھی ہے اور ہم بھی ہیں مرنے کے قریب. کوچنے کا بھی ہے اور ہم بھی ہیں مرنے کے قریب. سب چھٹے اب نہ رہا کوئی ہمارا بانو, اس جوان بیٹے کے غم نے ہمیں مارا بانو. اس جوان بیٹے کے غم نے ہمیں مارا بانو. لاش اکبر کی جو
محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
It was peak of the mischief and virtuous in chains. Just laws were sacked with rules insane. As the tyrants on the rise and mass confused, offered lust with lies and faith abused. Thus the signs indicated and time dictated. Some souls elevated as Hussein alayhi salam navigated. A seed of the Prophet and the sight of his parents. That time in deluge, he was so arc, so apparent. In the name of God, for the sake of Islam, for the freedom of life and soul of Islam, gave greatest sacrifice, but not his hands, with the members of his kin and many of his friends. Her Muslim and the friends, those hearts so pure, they offered their lives as a shield and cure. Thus tyrants came forth from the curtain way old, then peace was bought and lives were sold. And daring in the manners were two young brothers, and the boldness of their moves were the teachings of the mother. Shone on and Muhammad with the valor known as Haydar. Those children were slain, not the feeling of the mother. With a message from his father was Qasim bin Hassan. A radiant jewel of Islam was this glowing young son, but Qasim into pieces with a bright day old. On the sand and heat, it was savage and cold. Then the pride of the Hashims rode back from the river, and the tyrants made sure that he did not deliver. They cut off his arms, but spirit was set, till an arrow hit the bag, only eyes got wet. Fell Abbas from his horse with no hands for support. Then Hussein rushed to shore for our brothers and resort. Those children who waited with the patience were told, and thirst in the camp was 3 days old. Soon Al-Kabir came down with a spear in his chest, which a father had to pull, so severe was the test. He was image of the Prophet and the life of Hussein. He was vision of a mother and the eyes of Hussein. Now the leader was alone as he called for the help. Then a baby fell down, a response from the crib. This thirsty, pure infant was a son of Imam, who acknowledged his father and the call of Imam. Thus Hussein brought him for some water in the field, and showed them baby's dried lips and appealed. But the 6 months old got an arrow so thick that turned him over and tore his neck. Ali Asghar went to sleep with his father in no fear, with the cradle on the fire and their heads on spear, and the mother's empty hand with the tear-dried eyes, who looked for the baby to sing lullabies. And a sister by the camp saw the horror of this trip, as a knife tore the neck where the Prophet put his lips. Earth in grief roared heavens and mourned. Sand turned red when Hussein was torn. And a child full of tears with her tiny bleeding ears, bruises on her face and her thirst so severe. She ran for her father who lay beheaded, and cried for the uncle for help she needed. Sayyida Zainab looked for her in the sadness of that night. It incurred every soul in the land of the plight. But Sakina was sleeping on the chest of a body, with the love of the father from the fragrance of his body. Then the camp pushed down while flames went up. Little children rushed out as the dresses lit up. It was a night full of cries and the innocent quests. Shattered were the dreams and broken were the nests. All defenses lay to rest after trials and the tests. Left to face one Imam, even the history would detest, who fainted with the illness, faced torture and torment, a master of the pious and devotees. Ornament, lashes on his back, heavy chains on Imam, but ladies would for the prisoners was the wound of Imam. No chair for them, but the rope-tied arms, and grief soared high for Kufa to Sham. But the daughter of Ali challenged miseries with the messages, with the families in bazaars and deadly courts of savages. With the depth of the patience and the zenith of bravery, Islam was rescued forever from the slavery. Salawat.
Subhanallah. Another loud salawat for him, please. Assalamu alaikum Muhammadeen. Just a few announcements before we get started. First of all, we would like to recite a quick Surah Fatiha for the marhumeen of today's sponsors, especially Sayyid Hassan Naheed, Sirajanisa Begum, Sayyid Ghulam Hasnain Rizvi, and Sayyida Sukaina Fatima Al-Fatiha. Also, just reminding you about the parking situation. There are a few businesses along in this plaza that are open, so the parking spots that are right in front of those businesses, you cannot park there, unfortunately. The best place to park would be the parking lot across the road or behind our center, which is the parking lot right here. Moving on from that, I would just like to remind you that the afternoon majlis that will happen today, there's going to be a jalus and a matamdari right after that. That will take place right here in the parking lot outside. If you cannot attend the jalus after that for some reason, we are also holding a smaller jalus we're just going to have inside. If you would like to hold an alam or something else like that, please can you go to the zari room right at the beginning of matam and we'll get you to hold something, inshallah. With that, I would just like to invite you all with a loud salawat to come closer as I invite Dr. Shaeba Rizvi to the minbar. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Another loud salawat, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد نبيه وآله وسلم تسليما صلوات ما صلي على Another salawat in unison, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Jazakallah. First of all, I beg your forgiveness for my tardiness, completely my fault. And I've been rushing from Majlis, from Mississauga to Richmond Hill, then back to Oakville, then back over here, and no rest in between, but still, sometimes things are not in our control. So please, I beg for your forgiveness, and let us continue without further ado. We are saying that you can recognize Allah through science, you can recognize Allah through religion. And science will have its limitations. At some point, we have to move beyond science. If you look at the history of the prophets, we see that many of them, they manifested the faith, they explained the faith through miracles. What is a miracle, and is a miracle anything that we can study scientifically? So a miracle actually is that which is not making sense scientifically. A miracle, if it makes sense scientifically, then it's not really a miracle. So many of the prophets explain things through miracles, and that means they proved the existence of Allah by defying the laws of nature, because science studies the laws of nature. Yes, you can see some things in nature and help you to understand Allah and His creation, that's true. I mean, how many, it's no coincidence, you know, that you have 12 imams, and well, we already decided that, right, the first day. We decided there's no coincidence, there's no such thing as luck. Hopefully we agree. We still agree? Good. No such thing as luck, no coincidence. So if there are 12 months in the year and you have 12 imams, then that's also not coincidence. In the Quran, Allah says that from the beginning of time, since I created the world, there have always been 12 months in the year. And when someone asked our Imam about that and said, why would Allah talk about 12 months of the year and say that this is the deen, this is the religion is, this is from Surah Tawbah, 9:36. And the verse says that, indeed, near Allah, from the beginning of time, in His book, the deen has been 12 months. And so then they asked the Imam, why is Allah saying that our religion is based on 12 months when our religion is not really based on months, is it? He said that it's not 12 months the Quran is referring to, it is referring to the 12 Imams. So this is not a coincidence that you have 12 months in the year, nor that you have a clock that shows you 12 hours, and then we see that the day is made up of two of these, 12 hours and 12 hours giving you 24. In fact, your face that moves when you smile, when you frown, when you talk, when you whisper, when you look at little bracelets, when you're doing anything like that, this face is controlled by nerves. Did you know you have nerves that control your muscles? No? Now you know. You have little electrical wires in your body that are called nerves, and they control your muscles of your face. You know how many control your face? 12. That's not a coincidence either. Did you know that your Imam is called Wajhullah? Do you know what Wajhullah means? Your Imam is Wajhullah. Imam Ali is Wajhullah. Your Imam right now is Wajhullah. Wajhullah means the face of Allah. Do you know why your Imam is called the face of Allah? Because when you look at somebody's face, you can tell what they are thinking. You can tell what they are feeling. You can tell what they want to express. When Allah wants to express something to the world, to the universe, He expresses it through the Imam. So the Imam is now being called the face of Allah for that. So that's why we call our Imam Wajhullah. And do you know how many nerves control your face? 12. So is that a coincidence? No, there's no coincidences. In fact, did you know that in your brain there's a little area? Right now we're talking about how science, correlates with Allah and His Masumeen. And it's about the size of your finger. And it's right over here on the side. And you have one on this side and one on this side, about in the middle of your head. And you know what it does? Yeah, right there. And what it does is it controls all of the movements of your body. From your eyebrows, to your fingers, to your arms, to your legs, to your toes. Just this big strip in your brain controlling all the movements of your body. Do you see how your hand is also divided into 3 sections? 3 sections right there. In fact, if you look at your fingers, you usually have 14 sections. Have you counted them? 14. Why do you see 14 here? Is that a coincidence too? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Is that a coincidence? No. Because what you eat with your hand. And it is telling you that Allah feeds the universe by wasila of the 14 masumeen. So you see 14 bones in your fingers. In fact, the 14 masumeen collect together to become the Panjatan. When their nude is condensed, it becomes the Panjatan. And if you look at your hand, what you see is that all of these come together, and that's how you tend to eat food. Unless you like to eat with a fork and spoon, a little more inspired by Western mannerisms. But you know that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, said that I will never stop 3 things. What are the 3 things he said I will never stop doing? That means never. That means he knows people later on are going to do them, but he's telling us, don't stop doing this. Society will influence you, centuries will change, people will change, time will change, but don't stop doing these 3 things ever. And he said, I will never stop greeting children first. So he would always say salam to the children before they said salam to him. And he wouldn't wait for them to say salam. And the second thing he said, I will never stop eating on the floor while I'm sitting on the floor. He didn't eat on dining tables. He sat on the floor and ate. And then he said, I will never stop eating with my hand. So he always ate with his hand, not using knife and fork. Sometimes you have to, like soup is kind of hard to drink with your hand, so you'd want to use a spoon. But where you can, when you can, it's a good idea to avoid the knife and fork. Especially when you're at home and no one's going to bother you. Just like that. That's right. That's how he ate, and that is considered good manners, not bad manners, because he came to teach us the best manners, and he knows what the best manners are. So we see these hands, but what happens is, even when you look at these hands, you notice that every thumb and finger and digit is unequal. They're all different size and length. And the Masumeen are also 5 different noors, and they all seem different when we look at the 5 Panjatan, right? You know who the Panjatan are? They're in your mind, all 5 names. They're all different. One is older, one is younger, male, female. We have that difference. But when they come together, even when your hand comes together, you notice here they're all different length. But what happens when you bring them together? They all become the same, right? Equal. So these 5 noors come together and they become one noor. And that's what Hazrat Jibreel said. What did Hazrat Jibreel ask Allah about the 5 Panjatan when they were under the Kisa? He said, who are they? He didn't recognize them because they became one big noor. And then Allah said who they are, right? And he said that they are Fatima and her father and her husband and her sons. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So we can understand that through our body. You have 14 bones right over here. In fact, if you add these 14 with these 5, you have 5 right over here. That's 19. 14 plus 5, 19. And then you have 8 bones over here. You add 8 in there, that makes 19 plus 8. That's a hard one. Mathematical genius. 27, correct. And you know what 27 is? 27 is 2 and 7. And you know what 7 plus 2 is? 9. And 9 is the number of, do you know which Masoom gets the number 9? Do you know what numerology is in Islam? In Islam, everything is based on, creation is based on mathematical formula. And everything is based on these numbers. What's the number for Bismillah? 7, 8, 6. What's the number for your holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. 92. What happens when you add 9 and 2? You get 11, and 2 is also the adad for Imam Ali. What's Imam Ali's number? 1, 1, 0, 110. We remember that one. Very good. So these are all, this is not some kind of hocus pocus magic. This is numerology, and this is based on the mathematical formulas that the world is created with. So all these numbers have significance. Now coming back to your brain, right in your brain over here, there's a little strip the size of your finger, and this strip the size of your finger is where you control all the movements of your body. On the right side, there's a strip that controls all the movements of the left side of your body, and on the left side, there's a strip that controls all the movements of the right side of your body. That's kind of weird, right? I don't know why that is. Scientists are still trying to figure that one out. We don't have a good reason for it. But that's why science has limitations. If we asked our Imam, he'd be able to tell us. While we wait for science to figure it out, it'll take a long time. So, did you know that just like your fingers divide into 3 sections, that strip is divided into 3 sections? This is where it gets stranger. Because one little section of it, 1/3 of it, is designed to control your face. And 1/3 is designed to control your hands and face. And 1/3 is designed to control the rest of your body. The rest of your body, all the way from your neck, chest, shoulders, arms, forearms, abdomen, back, thighs, lower legs, feet. That's a lot, right, to have just here. Here you have hands, here you have face, here you have neck, shoulder, abs, chest, back muscles, leg muscles, a lot of it. So here you have like about maybe this much area, like 12 inches, here maybe 9 to 12 inches, and here you've got like 5 or 6 feet of body controlled. So that's telling you that a lot of your control is here. Your brain controls this a lot and this a lot. So your hands and your face get the most control. That's why you have more control with your hands. Like you don't write with your toes, do you? Usually not. You can't stick a finger in a pen between your toes and write with it because your hand has more control. You don't write with your elbow. Can you put a pen over here and start writing like that? That would be strange. So why? Because your hands have the most control, and your face. So what do you use when you're going to say takbir? When you're going to say Allahu Akbar? That's right. You put your hands right here next to your face. So this is also no coincidence. You are taking the two parts of your body that you have the most control over, that Allah has given you as a gift, and you are saying that you are great. So you are telling Allah, Allahu Akbar, you are great. And you're doing that by your hands and your face. And this means that you present your hand and your face to Allah and you communicate with Him with that. Now, what did we say the face of Allah is? Wajhullah. Who's Wajhullah? Imam Ali. That's right. Every Imam is Wajhullah. Absolutely. And then what do you call the hand of Allah? Yadullah. Very good. Who's Yadullah? Yes, your Imam is also Yadullah. So this is also telling you that this is the means you communicate with Allah in your prayer by saying takbir, using your hands and face, and He communicates with you also through the Imam, who is his hujjat, who is called Yadullah and Wajhullah. Excellent. Now, what are the two gifts that Allah has given you that have the highest mention in the Quran all the time? Very good, hands and face, excellent. Now in this face there are two things especially that the Quran talks about a lot, that you use to sense things, that you use to perceive the world. Eyes and ears. He says, I gave you eyes and ears. I gave you eyes and ears, and He says this again and again and again. You know why He mentions these two gifts? Yes, you have a nose and mouth, true, that's true, but He does not mention your sense of smell or your sense of taste. He mentions specifically the sight and hearing the most in the Quran. Why? Because you see the world in an amazing way. In other words, your eyes are still the most amazing camera. Nothing can compete with your eyes. Your cell phones now have, how many cameras do they have on them now? They used to have one. Now there's 3. Have you seen more? I saw one with 5 on there. 5? You saw the 5 one too? Yes. And soon there's going to be 100 little eyes. It'll look like the eyeballs of a fly. A fly is supposed to have a lot of eyes, right? So this is, but your camera is incredible. This camera right over here is the most amazing camera. We haven't been able to create anything even close to that. When someone is born blind, we have no cure for that. Even today in science, we have no cure for anybody who is born blind. But did you know the miracle of Hazrat Isa? Hazrat Isa performed many miracles. Among them, there's 2 especially that he did. When he said in Surah, for example, he says in Surah An-Nisa, and or in Surah Bani Israel, in 349, Ali Imran. Let's look at that one. In chapter 3, verse 49, Ali Imran, he says that I will cure the lepers and I will cure the blind. This is the miracle of Hazrat Isa. He cures the lepers and the blind. Do you know what lepers are? They're people who have leprosy. You know what leprosy is? It's a bacterial infection like tuberculosis. And even today, we don't have any cure for leprosy. And we don't have any cure for congenital blindness, which is that which you're born with. So it's amazing that Hazrat Isa doesn't mention any other disease, but specifically the 2 that even today we have no cure for. And how long has it been since Hazrat Isa was curing these things on earth? 2,000 years. So even 2,000 years later, we're not able to perform those things which were performed as a miracle. So sometimes we understand science, we understand Allah through science, but sometimes we have to understand Him through miracles. What other miracles do we see? We see Hazrat Ibrahim performing miracles. Hazrat Ibrahim was thrown into the fire. Thrown into the fire. And did the fire burn him? No. You know why the fire didn't burn him? Because, oh, you want to answer that? Exactly. That's a beautiful answer. Can never go wrong with that answer. Yes, that's true. And you know how he ended up not being burned? We see that, in this book by Sheikh Saduq Kamaluddin, he says that Hazrat Ibrahim had a special shirt that he was wearing. And that special shirt was temperature proof. That means nothing could burn him, nothing could freeze him because of that shirt. And did you know that that shirt came from heaven? And did you know who Hazrat Ibrahim gave that shirt to? To his son Hazrat? Very good. Yes, he gave it to Hazrat Ishaq. And you know who Hazrat Ishaq gave it to? To Hazrat Yaqub. And Yaqub gave it to Hazrat? Very nice. I see you know the history of the shirt. So yes, he gave it to Hazrat Yusuf. And that is the shirt that Hazrat Yusuf sent when he sent the shirt back with his brothers to cure the blindness of Hazrat Yaqub. That was the same shirt that cured the blindness. And you know who has that shirt now? Your Imam. That's right. He has it now. So we're waiting for him to come, inshallah, and he will come very soon. So we see these miracles happening. Now, is it a coincidence that all these numbers align perfectly with the way everything is? No, of course not. Everything happens for a reason. Did you know that out in outer space right now, did you know we used to think that space was a vacuum and there was nothing there? That's what I was taught when I was in middle school, that from the sun, do they still teach you that? From the sun to the earth, it's a vacuum, and light travels through that vacuum. They don't say that anymore? Now they just did you teach about vacuums, like the vacuum cleaner? Have you guys know what a vacuum is? A vacuum is where there's nothing, but they probably don't tell you that anymore. They taught us that in middle school. Now they say, no, actually there's dark matter out there, dark matter. Your Imam said that many, many centuries ago when Imam Zainul Abidin, as-salatu was-salam. Shabash. MashaAllah. Yali, yali. And so, exactly. And that was a long breath. You know how many breaths the average person takes per minute? 12. Were you going to say 12? Good. Yes, 12 is the number of the day. I saw your lips moving. Very smart. Yes, 12 breaths per minute. Absolutely. One thing after another, all falling into perfection. You can't live without oxygen. Now I'll go into oxygen. Even water, it like explains everything. You know, water is the basis for your life, right? What is water? Liquid, excellent. It is in the state we call liquid, H2O, right? And do you know what water is in the Quran when the Quran talks about water? Al-ma. Al-ma is the Arabic word for water. You'll see it a lot in the Quran. And when our Imam was asked, what is this al-ma? Our Imam mentioned that the Quran, when it mentions al-ma, it means vilayat. Vilayat. Vilayat is al-ma. And therefore, and what is vilayat? Vilayat is that force by which Allah has created everything and He blesses everything. And the vilayat is that which is the status of Allah and the 14 masumeen. Innama waliyakum Allahu wa rasulahu. And so we see, and also the one who gives zakat when he is in ruku, and that is Amirul Mu'mineen. This is vilayat. This is the foundation of creation and the way you will understand everything. So never forget this word. It is the most important word in your understanding of religion, vilayat. And not everybody knows how important it is, but you do, because you are followers of the Wali of Allah, Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Muhammad Muhammad. Ya Ali. And like your body is made of water, what percentage of your body is water? Yes. Same 80? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, 60 to 80% is the textbook range, with 70% as an average. Absolutely. 70% water. How much of the earth is water? 70%. What a coincidence. and you have the same minerals as the earth has in your body. So none of this is coincidence, right? There's a reason why Allah is explaining to you the importance of vilayat and saying the earth is made of water, your body is made of water, your deen is made of water. But the water for your deen is vilayat. That is the water. And water keeps you alive. So what will keep your deen alive? Vilayat. And water is the basis for your life here on earth, and the basis for your eternal life will be vilayat. And what do you think Imam Hussein was saying in Karbala when he said, like, what was the thirst for? The thirst. It was not just for this obvious water, but it was also to see. Yes, the throat was thirsty and that needed water, but there was another thirst of Imam Hussein, the thirst that was metaphysical. And this was to see who will come and who will help the vilayat. Because when he took his sword to finally fight, he said that I stand and fight in defense of the vilayat of my father and my mother. So we see that vilayat becomes a very important reason to stand up and defend the faith for. And the thirst was for those who would come forward and would help and be part of this mission to make people understand what vilayat is. And so we see that the bravest of Imam Hussein's warriors was the one who was not allowed to fight, was the one who, if he had taken out his sword, he would have destroyed the whole enemy army. But his test was not to fight. His test was to keep the sword in obedience of his Imam and not fight. And this was one of the hardest things we see happening. It was very, very difficult for Hazrat Abbas on the day of Ashur because he was not allowed to take out his sword. Yet what we see is, because there were 4 people who were so brave that if they had come together, no army could ever defeat them. And Hazrat Abbas was one of them. And so was Hazrat Abdullah ibn Ja'far Tayyar. And so was Hazrat Muhammad Hanfiya. And so was Hazrat Muslim bin Aqil. And these 4, if they had come together, they were separated. Imam Hussein was going not to fight a war. He did not take his best warriors with him. He took his family. If he had gone to fight a war and he had wanted to win a war and take over by force, he would have taken these 4. It was said in Arabia that if anywhere where these 4 came together on the battlefield, no one could stand against them. But they were all separated, and only one of them was in Karbala. Muslim bin Aqil was alone in Kufa, and Hazrat Muslim was martyred there alone. Muhammad Hanfiya ended up with a disease in his leg, an infection. He was not able to move. And Hazrat Abdullah ibn Ja'far Tayyar also ended up with an eye illness infection, and he was not able to travel either. So this was all because it was not meant to be a war. And when Hazrat Abbas finally sees Bibi Sakina come to him and say, "Oh Chacha, I have looked at Ali Asghar, and it looks like he is very thirsty now. And I do not think he will be able to survive unless he gets some water. Oh Chacha, is there any way to get water to the camp?" It is said that Bibi Sakina saw many, many children come to her and say, "Please ask your Chacha to bring us water because we are very thirsty." There were many, many little ones in those tents, and all of them lined up together, and they went to Hazrat Abbas. Hazrat Abbas said, "Let me ask your father, O Sakina, and see if he gives me permission." And so he took the mushk of Sakina, that which they would put water into. It was like a leather bottle. And the mushk was taken, he put it on his shoulders, and he took Sakina in his arms. And he went to Imam Hussein. And he said, "Oh Mawla, you can see that these children are very thirsty now. Can you please allow me and give me permission that I may go get water?" Imam Hussein said, "Yes, of course, you have permission. But know, Abbas, that you are not to fight and you are not to raise the sword." So we see that Hazrat Abbas did not take his sword out that day, but he took the water bottle, the mushk, he got on his horse and he went to the river. It is said that Hazrat Abbas was so brave and so courageous, and they had seen him fight when he was only but 12 or 13 in the battle of Siffin.
And it is said they still remembered his bravery and his might, and it was talked of in stories in Arabia. And when they heard he was coming, everybody backed away. No one wanted to come close. And he got to the river. When he got to the Euphrates, it is said that he got down from his horse and he filled the musk with water, and then he put it back on his shoulders. He got on his horse and looked at the tents and started to move towards the tents. By now, no one had come near him because they had tried to attack him on the way there, but he had fought them off just with his horse. He had fought them off just with his horse with no sword, and they had backed away, scared. It is said that now when he advanced again towards the tent, they slowly started coming from all the sides, and they started setting up ambushes for him. They knew that he was trying to get this one bottle of water to the tent. And they knew that he was not going to fight now. He hadn't taken out his sword. So they set up an ambush, and that means that there were like sand dunes, and they would hide behind them. So when he rode through, they would jump, and they would attack him. And they attacked him with swords, with spears, with arrows, and they continued to attack him, but he did not slow down even for a moment. It is said that he only looked at the tent, got faster and faster. It is said that every wound that hurt him did not slow him down. And as they attacked him again and again, they were trying to aim for the musk now. They realized that Hazrat Abbas was only concerned about this little piece of water that he had with him. And so they started to attack the musk of Sakina. At that time, Hazrat Abbas started to defend the musk with his arms. It is said they hacked and hacked at his arms until his right arm was cut off. He was holding the alam with his right arm, and then he took the alam into his left. And then it is said that they cut his left arm. And then he held the alam between the saddle and his knee. And then he kept on going. He did not stop. But now he no longer had any arms to defend himself. And so now they started to fire arrows. Because Hurmula saw that Abbas was not slowing down. And he says that I knew that it was all about that water. So he says, I took one arrow and I aimed for the musk of Bibi Sakina. And he says that when the arrow struck that musk and Hazrat Abbas saw the water starting to fall out, he realized that he will not be able to get the water to Bibi Sakina now. It is said that because he had no arms, he reached down with his teeth to grab the arrow to try and pull it out so that he could save some water. But as he bent down, he was so tall none could reach his head. But as he bent down, a man came behind with an axe and hit him on the back of his head. It is said that at that time he fell to the ground. And as he fell to the ground, they pounced upon him, each and every one of them, and started to attack him again. It is said that Imam Hussain ran to his brother, but by the time he got to him, they had attacked Hazrat Abbas so much that he was bleeding from every wound, and they had tried to cut him to pieces. And then he took Hazrat Abbas's head and put it on his lap. And Imam Hussain said, "Oh, my dear brother." And Hazrat Abbas said, "Master, you have come, and I want to see you one last time. But I cannot see you because there is an arrow in my eye, and the other arrow is filled with blood. Master, I would not bother you, but if you can clean the blood off my eye, I would like to see your face one more time before I die." It is said that Imam Hussain cleaned the blood, and Hazrat Abbas opened one eye and looked at his brother. And when he saw him, he said, "Oh, my brother," he said, "Oh, Mawla, accept my last salam. Accept my last salam, and do not take my body to the tents, for I was not able to bring water for Sakina." He said, "Take my body and give it to Umar ibn Sa'd, and tell him to trample my body with the horses, and not to do that to your body, O Master." Imam Hussain says, "My dear brother, I have one request as well. You have called me master your whole life. I have always wanted to hear the word brother from your lips. Oh Abbas, please call me brother." And Hazrat Abbas says, "Salamu alayka ya akhi. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ لَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ." Matam Hussain.
جب ردا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. آل عمران نے کہاں اور زندہ نے کہاں یہ بہن قیدی ہوئی ہوگا یا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. ہم کو پانی نہ ملے تیری خوشبو تو رہے تیرے بازو نہ کٹے چاہے مشکی زاچ دے یہ مگر ہو نہ سکا تیرے بازو ہے جدا مجھ پہ ہے تشنا لبی تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. دھوپ میں تو تھا شجر تجھ سے آباد تھا گھر ہے برہنا میرا سر کیا نہیں تجھ کو خبر. اے علمدار وفا اس بہن کو باخدا تو ہستی بری تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. آ گئے شام علم لٹکے اہل حرم ریٹ پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا ٹھنڈا علم. پرسہ دینے کے لیے مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آ گئے بابا علی تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. یا حسین
یا عباس یا عباس. کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا. کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا. کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا. کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا. ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار. کہتے تھے کمر دھام کے یہ سید ابرار. ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار. یہ حال ہے لاشے کا سنبھالا نہیں جاتا سنبھالا نہیں جاتا. تیر آنکھ سے بھائی کی نکالا نہیں جاتا، نکالا نہیں جاتا، امداد کو آ جائیے یا حیدر کرار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، زینب نے تیری آس پہ چھوڑا تھا مدینہ، چھوڑا تھا مدینہ، میں کیسے بتاؤں اسے سقائے سکینہ، سقائے سکینہ، امداد کو آ جائیے یا حیدر کرار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، تم قتل ہوئے ہم پہ بھی چل جائے گی شمشیر، چل جائے گی شمشیر، اغیار میں رہ جائے گی تنہا میری ہمشیر، تنہا میری ہمشیر، زینب کی رضا بچنے کے باقی نہیں آثار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، علمدار، ہائے علمدار، آتی ہے صدا لوٹ لو ناموس نبی کو، ناموس نبی کو، اب مارنا آساں ہے حسین بن علی کو، حسین بن علی کو، مرنے پہ تیرے جشن مناتے ہیں ستمگار، ہائے علمدار،
عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج سے تمہارا دریا ہے ہمارا، عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج سے تمہارا دریا ہے ہمارا، بہتر ہے اگر آپ کرے اسے کنارہ دریا ہے ہمارا، بہتر ہے اگر آپ کرے اسے کنارہ دریا ہے ہمارا، آنے کی یہاں شام کے حاکم کی خبر ہے، سب زیر و زبر ہے، سب زیر و زبر ہے، کل صبح سے گر جائے گا میدان یہ سارا دریا ہے ہمارا، دریا ہے ہمارا، عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج سے تمہارا دریا ہے ہمارا، یہ سنتے ہی عباس کے ابرو پہ بلایا، بڑھ کر یہ سنایا، بڑھ کر یہ سنایا، ہرگز نہیں تم لوگوں کا کچھ اس میں اجارہ دریا ہے ہمارا، دریا ہے ہمارا، عباس کہتی تھی یہ فوج سے تمہارا دریا ہے ہمارا، پیاسے رہے میدان میں واسطے پیمبر، سیراب ہو لشکر، سیراب ہو لشکر، ایک دم میں الٹ دوں گا صفوں کو ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا، دریا ہے ہمارا، عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج سے تمہارا دریا ہے ہمارا، بہتر ہے اگر آپ کرے اسے کنارہ دریا ہے ہمارا، یا حسین یا
اے شیر نیستان حیدر عباس، اے شیر عباس، اے شیر نیستان حیدر تھی صدا زینب رو کر عباس کیا اسی دن کے لیے مانگی تھی بابا نے دعا آ کے پردیس میں ہو جاؤ گے تم ہم سے جدا سوتے ہو چین سے دری یا کے کنارے بھیا کیا سنائی نہیں دیتی تمہیں من کی صدا عباس تنہا ہے کرے رن میں سرور عباس شیر نیستان حیدر عباس شیر اے میرے شیر جوان اے میرے بھائی ہو کہاں شاق ہے دل پہ میرے تیری جدائی ہو کہاں دیر سے دیتی ہوں بھیا میں دہائی ہو کہاں لٹی ہے فاطمہ زہرا کی کمائی ہو کہاں عباس خنجر حلقے سرور پر عباس شیر نیستان حیدر عباس شیر نیستان حیدر کیا اسی دن کے لیے سات بہنتی آئی آ گئی نیند جو دریا کی ترائی پائی پھر پلٹ کر ہمیں صورت بھی نہیں دکھلائی آ گیا رن سے علم تم نہیں آئے بھائی عباس شیر نیستان حیدر عباس شیر نیستان حیدر
توجہ اجازت السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسيعين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين السلام عليكم جميع شهداء دشت كربلاء خصوصا سيدي ومولا يا أبا الفضل العباس يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء السلام عليك يا سلطان يا أبو الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان ألمان 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 السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا مدحر العيمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان السلام عليك يا إمام زمان هذا أجل الله تعالى مخرجك وذحولك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته